Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network. The broadcast shows are for informational and entertainment purposes only. They are not designed to provide listeners with specific personal, medical, or counseling advice. Individuals with a medical issue should always consult their healthcare provider. MS&Me is not responsible for content of individual shows. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own. Enjoy the show. Welcome to MS&Me Interviews. I am your host, Erica Lyons Richardson. Today's interview is kicking off our hashtag We Have MS series. It's interviews for 2018. Many of our trusted partners have been helping us spread hashtag We Have MS around social media. Over 2.5 million people are estimated to have MS globally. Often completely unaware, people encounter patients living with MS in their everyday lives, even if a close relative or friend hasn't been impacted directly by the disease. You probably regularly interact with patients living with MS in your everyday life. It can be your child's teacher, your neighbor, a doctor, or even the cashier at your supermarket. This week's guest is Katie Collett, co-anchor of WAVY's highly rated early morning newscast. Welcome to MS&Me Interviews, Katie.
Thank you, Erica. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, viewers of WAVY TV10 out of Virginia had no idea anchor of their local news was living with multiple sclerosis. Autoimmune diseases such as MS are often referred to as invisible diseases. Unless a person living with a chronic illness requires a mobility aid or an orthotic, their physical appearance may offer few visual clues of the disease they manage each and every day. Katie, can you share with our listeners your MS diagnosis story?
Sure. In 2012, it was July, and I was on just a mini vacation with my husband and two of our friends, and we were in North Carolina, and I had a really bad stabbing pain in my right eye. Really, really painful. And I couldn't get to an eye doctor because we were in North Carolina, so I just kind of brushed it off and dealt with it for about 2 days. And then we headed back to Virginia, and on the way back, I noticed that I couldn't see very well out of my right eye, and I had some shimmery things. If you ever get migraines, you might get the little auras in your eyes, and you can't see very well. I had that in my right eye, and that's where the pain was. So I immediately went to my eye doctor, and he did a bunch of tests on my eye, and I was thinking I had a torn retina. And he said, no, I did not have a torn retina. And he realized through multiple tests that suddenly I could no longer see color, and that there were parts of the world I just couldn't see. Like there were just things I could not see any longer out of my eye. So if I would look at your face, I could only see a triangle on the left side of your face, a triangle of the right side of your face, and the chin. So I had basically a peace sign blocked out of my vision in my right eye. So he knew, my doctor knew that something wasn't right with that, but he could not find what it was. So he sent me to a specialist, and the specialist discovered that I had optic neuritis. And he told me 1 in 5 people with optic neuritis have multiple sclerosis. And I wished that my odds would have been that for the lottery. Instead, It was 1 in 5 for MS. And I went in for an MRI. Fortunately, I have never had to have a spinal tap. I've never had to have any spinal testing. All of my lesions are on my brain. So I did the brain scan, and they found lesions on my brain that were flame-shaped, which means they were MS lesions. And so I was diagnosed with MS 5 days before my 1-year wedding anniversary. So not exactly how my husband and I wanted to celebrate our anniversary. And it was a very trying time because we had just started talking about having a baby. And so then there was the concern, can we still have children? What is my future going to be? And then life crumbled around us for a little bit. My husband and I are both very strong people, and we cried and decided who we were going to tell and when, and we decided right away to be very open about it with our friends and family. And I think support from friends and family in something like this is really important. And we have very supportive family members and friends, and very positive family members and friends, which I think is also very important. So we told them right away. And I remember crying next to my husband on day 2 after the diagnosis. And I said, if God gave me this, something good has to come out of it. So when I discuss everything with work, we will come up with a timeline of when I can share this news with the viewers, because I am going to use this disease for good. This disease has no cure, and I think I got it because I can speak publicly about it. Yes. So I knew, my work had known that I was having vision troubles because I'm a news anchor.
Right, exactly.
I couldn't really see the teleprompter very well. I could still anchor, and at the time I was actually auditioning for a main anchor spot at my station. I was the weekend anchor, and they had decided to have me audition for the morning anchor spot. So I was diagnosed and found out that this job that I have wanted all my life, yeah, that's great, you're going to audition for it, but you also can't see out of your right eye anymore, and you have multiple sclerosis. So I would go on set and audition, and I would read the prompter and do my thing, and then in commercial breaks, I would go behind the set and cry for about a minute and 30 seconds, and then the director, and nobody knew, no one at work knew at that time, and then I would dab my eyes, put powder back on when the director said 30 seconds, I'd go back on set and smile and tell the news and tell jokes and be a happy morning anchor, and then in a commercial break, I'd go and cry again. Finally, I got a grip on it. I went through the stages of grief, and then I just kind of got a grip on it, and I told my bosses that I had multiple sclerosis, and I felt like it was very important for them to know as well. Again, I work for a very supportive TV station, and I'm surrounded by really supportive people, and I know not everybody has that with work, but I do. So I told them, and I felt like everyone at work needed to know, because I work with photographers, and at the time, I didn't know, with MS, we kind of feel like ticking time bombs. What's our next symptom going to be? And I didn't know if my next symptom would be suddenly I had a mobility problem, or suddenly I had a hearing issue, or suddenly I had an issue with my arms. And if I was working with a photographer and just fell down, they would need to know what was going on. So I told everybody at work, we all kind of cried together, hugged, worked through it all, and then about a month later, I was named the morning anchor. So my bosses knew that I had multiple sclerosis, and we all researched it together, and they knew what it meant, and they also knew that I could do the job. So I have been a morning anchor with multiple sclerosis now, going on about 6 years. So it's been interesting, to say the least.
Interesting ride.
It's been a very interesting ride, but it's great that I can still do what I love, because really I know that there are many who aren't as fortunate.
That is a blessing. It really is. If only more employers would handle something that way. Okay, my employee now has this. Let me learn everything I can about it. See if it will impact the job, or if we do need to make any accommodations. And then let's go forward.
Exactly. And it's so unfortunate and unfair that people would not be promoted just because they have MS.
Absolutely.
It's a disability, but it doesn't stop us from living our lives, nor should it. And it is infuriating that people can't be more open at work about it to get the help they need, because they're afraid of not being picked for that promotion or for the big project, because people might think they can't handle it. Well, let us tell you what we can
Exactly.
handle.
We know our bodies, and we know our disease better than anyone. And it's, it's true, because as they like to say, MS is a snowflake disease. There are many different types. There are, of course, many different courses and stages. And I have the more aggressive, rarer type, and I'm more progressed. However, I lived a complete lifetime, as they like to say, before it impacted my career, before it impacted my daily life. And if someone would have decided for themselves what I could and couldn't do way back, you know, after I first came out of college and first started working. Well, there would have been a lifetime gone that I
Oh,
gave to
absolutely.
my patients, you know, that I gave to
Hmm.
my students when I was a teacher. They would have, you know, precluded me from living all those years of productive life. So they really do need in that situation to let us tell them what we can and can't do, and if there's any limitations or if there need to be any accommodations made.
Absolutely.
Now, when you did first get the news, how did your husband really react when you first told him?
Well, he was at work,
Mm-hmm.
and I told him, I called him in tears, pretty close to hysterical, and said, I need you to come home. The doctor told me that I had MS, that I have MS. And he immediately came home, and we sat down, and we both just cried.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what to think. And at first, you know, we both knew what MS was, but we didn't really know what multiple sclerosis was. You know, when I was in elementary school and high school, we did walks, we did fundraisers. But when you're a kid, I mean, you don't really understand it. But when all of a sudden it happens to you, you start to understand
Yeah, you have
what's
to
really going
research.
on. And yeah, so we looked on the internet, and boy, is that a bad place. I mean, there's so many negative aspects of it. And his concern at first was that it was muscular dystrophy, and he thought I was going to rapidly deteriorate. And we learned, you know, then when I kind of calmed him from that and said, no, it is not that. And I showed him. I went to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society's website, showed him what it was. We tried to wrap our heads around it that way. And I actually said to him on the day that I was diagnosed. Now, he and I had been together for about 4 years before we were married. And then by the time I was diagnosed, we were going on 6 years together, almost 1 full year married. And I looked at him and said, I understand if you want to back out. And I get teary-eyed even thinking that I said those words.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and said, what are you talking about? Why would I leave? And I was like, because we don't know where this is going to go. And I feel like I tricked you. Like, I feel like you got into this with a healthy woman, and now you are stuck, and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And he said, we have wedding vows for a reason, and they're in sickness and in health. And that is ridiculous that you would think that I would just try to get out. And he's like, don't ever say it again. And I said, okay. And I never have.
Yeah, I teared up listening to you recount that, because my husband and he knew that I had chronic illness because I've had lupus and MS my whole life since childhood, but I didn't have final diagnosis on the MS. They kept changing it and misdiagnosing me over the years. So, yeah, that was a fun ride. But we didn't have final diagnosis until after we were married. And I said the same thing to him. And I tried to push him away for a while, actually. I think many of us go through that stage, unfortunately. It's a painful, confusing time. And he said the same thing. No divorce. Forget it. We made vows. You got me for better, for worse. He said, suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah.
You're stuck with me.
And thank goodness we found those men, because again, you know, there are men and women who aren't as fortunate, and their spouses, it's too much, and they leave. And I did not want for him what I knew my future could possibly hold. And that was before I completely understood where I was in my diagnosis, how fortunate we are that science is where it is today, how early my MS was caught, the medication that I've been put on, and how it's been working with my body. We didn't know any of that. And now, you know, I am fortunate that mine was caught extremely, extremely, extremely early. And I got on Texadera, and it has worked really well. And frankly, I am one of the fortunate people with multiple sclerosis who doesn't think about the fact that I have it every single second of the day. there are days that I forget until an alarm goes off at 7:20 in the morning that says, take your medication. And then there's an alarm that goes off at 6:55 at night that says, take your medication. And, if I don't get an MS hug in between that, which is such an awful term, but that's what whoever decided to call it that. Right. That's not a hug. That is an anaconda crushing your bones. But, if I don't have flushing or that MS hug happen during the day, there are days that I'm just too busy. I'm too busy being a mom, a wife, a news anchor, a journalist. I'm too busy to think about it.
Yeah.
And then my alarm goes off, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to take this little turquoise pill that saves my life.
That's so important that we make that clear to the listeners who are new to MS. It's not a death sentence. We live an average of just 6 years less than the general population. And with these improved treatments, with improved funding for research, that statistic could improve even more. And as Katie said, there's many different courses to MS, and there's several different types. And she can go throughout her day without having to just manage every moment with her disease. And then there are other patients on the other end of the spectrum who are just their lives are under 24-hour care. Their disease is being managed, every moment of the day. They are impacted by this disease, but we have to learn, educate ourselves, and keep living our lives going forward and pushing for that research funding and that global awareness.
Right. Now, and I'll tell you, it has really made me appreciate life even more. There were things before like, I have to go to the grocery store, and, I have to get up early to do this. But I appreciate that I can do it. Yeah. If I have to go to the grocery store, I can still do that. And if I have to wake up early to take my little boy to swim lessons, okay, do I really have to go out in the cold to take him to the swimming pool?
Right.
We live in Virginia. There's snow on the ground right now. Let's take him swimming. Yeah, I do. And you know what? I can.
Exactly.
And I take nothing for granted now. And I am happy. I am just very, very happy that I'm able to still do the things that I want to do.
Now, you're in such a competitive business. How long exactly did you wait before you shared your diagnosis with the viewers?
I waited about a year. I wanted to wait until I could talk about it factually and personally without crying.
Yes.
Just because, I didn't want them to get upset. And viewers are very close. They feel very close to their anchors, especially on the morning team, because in the mornings, we can be a little more casual and a little more, hey, how are you doing? Than the evening news can. And we have incredible viewers here. And I knew that for a number of those viewers, it was going to crush them. They were going to get really concerned for my health and well-being because they are still invested in us every day, which I appreciate. So I wanted to wait until I was in a good place for me, and I wanted to wait after discussing with my bosses that the TV station was prepared for what that was going to mean. Because it's a big announcement for both of us to make. And so we had discussions about it, and there was 1 year we were leading into MS Awareness Week. And everybody at the station wore orange that day. And I made the announcement to the viewers that we were wearing orange for Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Week. And I said to them, I have multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed a year ago. And I explained what it was. And my co-anchor, Don Roberts, was sitting right next to me, as he always does every morning at every midday newscast.
Yes.
And he let the viewers know, that the station is supporting me, and all of our friends and family are supporting me, and they're here for me. And, it was actually a really special moment. And we were flooded with emails, and I had so many Facebook messages from people saying they had multiple sclerosis, and how inspirational it was, and what an honor it is to see someone on television with a disability and a chronic illness still going on every day and smiling and waking up. I mean, I wake up at 2:15 every morning to get ready for work, and they know that I get to work at 3:30 in the morning, go at 4:30. And I think it has really allowed people kind of a new window or a new view into chronic illness, and the fact that we can still do so much, but that illness is still there. You know, there are still many things that we can do, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Yes.
And it's been very interesting and frankly really inspirational since. I honestly feel, I feel good. Not good that I have MS, because Lord knows I don't want it.
Right.
But if I have to have it, it's an honor to be someone who can represent the disease in the area in which I live right now and have the support of the community that I have. And this community, the Hampton Roads area, northeastern North Carolina, the Outer Banks, they want to learn about it. You know, there was one day on a show during a newscast that on live TV, the MS hug happened. And you feel like you're melting, and you get super hot, and it feels like your bones are in a garbage compactor and your organs are getting squished. I mean, it's excruciating. But I knew the pain was going to go away. And for me, it's about 25 minutes of discomfort, 5 minutes of really bad pain, but it goes away. But I still had to do this all on live television. So I posted on Facebook, and I let the viewers know. I said, hey, you can't normally see that my symptoms of MS, but if you tune in, right now, this is happening. And I explained what the MS hug was. I wrote a blog about it so they could see it, and I put a clip on that was my worst moment during the hug, and it was during a read that I had, and it was a happy read. It was a happy story.
Wow. And
the viewers were like, we couldn't even tell. We couldn't tell. And I was like, yeah, I was kind of acting through that. I just had to, because that's my job. But, they could see that I was there. They could see that I was red, from the flushing. And
I flush as well when I'm having one.
Yeah. So, since they can't always see it with me, I want them to understand that it's still there, and that people with MS, and you find out someone has MS, they might be smiling and saying hello, but you don't know what it is on them that hurts or that is impaired. So again, it is that illness where you can't always see it, and that's even the same with my Tecfidera. On a rare occasion, one of the side effects is the flushing, where you get very, very hot and turn blood red. And I've had it happen on the air, and I post on Facebook, hey, side effect of my Tecfidera. What is the medication that I take for multiple sclerosis is flushing. You turn on the news, and I look like a lobster. And the viewers will comment, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's, I can't believe that happened, or that is incredible that you're still working and handling that at the same time. And I think it's important for them to see, and they always want to know more about the disease.
Yeah, and it becomes that teachable moment, which is wonderful. We all go through that, with MS, with different symptoms. I experienced the hug during my wedding reception, and it was while they were getting ready to film us, for a dance. And my husband starts, he can see, he saw the red nose and the red face, and he, I just kind of hit it off by just leaning against one of the pillars, like I was just leaning, and I was actually grabbing my stomach and leaning up against it for balance.
So painful.
Yeah, and he just went on with the dance with with my nieces and nephews, and made a funny moment out of it with the chicken dance, and just tried to make humor, as we often do. But to be able to make those teachable moments out of it, that is such a blessing, with with your platform. Now, our bios are so similar that we could be separated at birth. But you're a sports fanatic as well. Yes, and you're also addicted to crime shows. We're so similar in that way.
Oh, I love them.
Yeah, did you want to go into morning
think I would be.
Did you want to go into morning when Derek left? Criminal Minds.
Did I want? Oh, Lord.
Oh, that was a moment for us. Another thing we do have in common is what we were just talking about, is our belief in the healing power of humor. And in our family, it's something we do as well. Something emotionally painful or stressful happens, then we process it, shake it off with humor, which is what you often do, and then bring it to your viewers through the blog and through the tweets, which is wonderful. It's wonderful that you have that platform. Now, also in 2017, you participated in Walk MS Southampton Roads, and Team WAVY Warriors raised thousands of dollars for multiple sclerosis. Yeah, that was amazing. Everyone's participation in the community. Are you participating in this year's walk?
Oh, yes, for sure. And we hope to grow the walk every year. In 2016 and 2017, I participated in the walks. And the only reason I didn't participate in walks before that was because I usually go to Pennsylvania around that time to visit family.
Oh.
And then when I was diagnosed the first couple of years, I kept going to Pennsylvania. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to need to make some adjustments here because it is absolutely insane that I am an advocate for multiple sclerosis awareness. I have the disease, and I'm not going to these walks. So we made some adjustments, and I got a team together at Wavy TV, and a lot of my friends showed up. I was so touched. I mean, there were so many that came out the first year, and I want to say that we were the second place fundraising team, and I was the first place fundraiser for an individual. And I remember when they called me up for that walk, and I didn't know that I was the first place fundraiser as an individual in 2016, and I was really, really choked up, and I was trying to hide my emotions, and I was choked up because I felt like I could have raised so much more. And I was like, I'm the number one fundraiser, and I raised a couple $1,000s.
Yes.
So I was like, I'm the number one fundraiser, and I only raised this much. How much did everybody else raise, and why are we raising more? You know, all this thought flowing through my brain, and I was really emotional.
Yeah.
And then the second year, my station overall was the number one fundraising team, and then I was the individual overall fundraiser. And we worked really hard to raise that money. And that year, last year then, I actually felt really good about us being number one in that way, because I felt like we had done pretty much all we could do to raise that money, and I didn't feel like I left anything hanging open there. So, and then this year, my station has made Walk MS one of our basically what would be considered a priority walk, a priority participation, and that means that even more people at the station will be coming and will be signing autographs, and it's going to be a really big event. And they promote it on television, and this is on my station. I've never asked them to do this. They just decided we're doing it, and so they put it on television, and they put the advertisements out there. And last year we had a team of about 35 or 36 people from my station and also from the community who joined.
That's amazing.
And I was told by one of the walk organizers last year that last year was the most teams they had ever had, and they felt like that was because of my TV station's participation and what we did on air. Yeah, and it's just been a huge honor to be able to have that impact in this community, because you have that impact on one community, and then it spreads to another community and spreads even more. My brother-in-law lives in Nashville, and he couldn't walk here, so what did he do? He formed his own team in Nashville and walked MS there.
That's great.
And he does it every year, every single year. And I just think that's absolutely incredible. And that's the love and support that I have around here. So I am,
truly
if you
blessed.
can consider being someone with MS and you're lucky, that's me.
That's right. Truly blessed. And we're coming to the end of our interview, and we're so thankful to have Katie join us today. She came from anchoring the morning news to record this interview with MS&Me. And Katie, you're such an amazing ambassador for the MS community. Now, we will have more about Katie and Wavy TV 10 support for MS on our website at www.msandmemedia.com. That's msandmemedia.com. Join me again next week here on MS&Me Interviews.